Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Cure for the Common Game. Today, we're going to be talking about Emrakul, the Promised End in deck number 378. Now, also known as the Emrakul that's legal in our format. I have a funny. Okay. I'm going to tell a story here. One of my sons was the original Emrakul was legal in EDH for a very, very brief period of time, and during that time, he had one of my sons. He was probably 11, 12 at the time, and he had it in his deck. And my wife's mother, my mother-in-law, they were playing each other, and I had walked out the door when she cast. Is it Tillman Performance? You mill to hit a creature, you get that creature for the free. You get to cast that creature. So I heard her tap the mana and announce the spell, and I walked out the front door to get something from the car, and I get whatever it was from the car, and I come back up, and I hear my son losing his mind. He's just what, and I walk back in, and she's just giggling madly, and there sits an Emrakul in front of her. But anyway, by the way, my son is scarred from all Emrakuls. But this is Emrakul 2.0, 1313, because, they've had to fix it. Now, this first line here costs one less. She costs one less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. Well, for this deck, that almost probably isn't even there. Well, we're going to have one, two, maybe. It's just one of the things about this being the commander and playing all colorless. Now, used to back in the day, all colorless decks were very, very expensive just because of your mana base, but now, thanks to the waste, it's a lot more affordable. So, but the beautiful part here is when you cast Emrakul, you get to Mindslaver somebody. Now, after that turn you Mindslaver them on, they get to take an extra turn. Flying Trample Pro Instinct. Pretty good. Still dies to board wipes. You don't want it to be too good. Okay, maybe we do, but so the first thing here is the downside. The downside of 13 mana. So we have quite a bit of ramp in the deck, and there's a bunch. But now the other downside is they get another turn to recover from what you're doing. You know, Ideally, you wreaked havoc on them. You use their creatures to beat somebody else in the face, whatever. But that player takes an extra turn. Well, the beautiful part is Ugin's Nexus says if a player would begin an extra turn, they skip it. So you get to cast Emrakul, take control of their next turn, and they don't get the recovery turn. Yeah. Now, also, Stronic Resonator says, well, Emrakul says when. So, you get the Stronic Resonator to get that twice. Well, let's look at our ramp, shall we? There's a bunch of it. We're going to start with just the good old-fashioned mana rocks here. And I mean, we're playing all of them. Prismatic Lens, Thought Vessel, Colony Gem. I like Colony Gem. I do. Seer's Lantern, Mind Stone, Hedron Archive, Thran Dynamo, Everflowing Chalice, Basalt Monolith, Pristine Talisman, even went so far as the Magnifying Glass, Dreamstone Hedron, Sisay's Ring, Worn Power Stone, Urv Golem's Eye. Now, I put the Voltaic Key in this category because if you've got the Thran Dynamo and the Voltaic Key, you've got 5 mana, bro. I mean, that's just how it is. Yeah, there are some other artifacts that we can untap. Okay, some, a few, but we're mainly going to do it for Mana Rocks. Now, other forms, I guess we could say, I have the Expedition map because you know we're playing with Tron, right? I mean, there's no reason not to. The Wayfarer's Bauble, you'll get a Waste, as well as the Burnished Heart and the Pilgrim's Eye. The Walking Atlas is just going to let us free drop land. I've got the Sad Robot. The Stone Calendar is just going to make all your stuff cheaper. The Lotus Bloom, hopefully we get it on turn 1. Yeah, if not, oh well. And then the 2 Eldrazi that tap for mana, the Chandler and the Warden. Now, that's a whole lot of ramp. And yeah, we could totally do the unwinding clock or random stuff like that. But let's face it, we don't really have a whole lot. I mean, I am running a planar bridge, more or less to tutor for the Ugin's Nexus. Just putting it out there. It's a 14 mana tutor. That's what it is. And hey, if it sticks around, cool. But we need other stuff in the deck. So I was like, well, I didn't really want to make it tribal Eldrazi, and I know that tribal is kind of a thing for me, and I do quite a bit of tribal. But you know what? That's exactly what I did because I don't feel like Emrakul would be playing around with anybody else. So the Eldrazi Mimic, Mimic's pretty balling for 2 mana. Of course, we've got the Crusher. Walker of Waste. Now, we do have a whole lot of non-basic lands, almost to the point where Walker of Waste almost did not make the cut. But we do got 20-something way, or was it 20? I don't know. The list is up on Tapped Out. But we have the Pathrazor. Now, I love Endless One. Y'all know this. I don't know why this card is so cheap. The Rakdos deck just busts this thing in half. Deceiver of Form. That's pretty neat. Have all your creatures become like, Banes. Of course, Spawn Sire. Yes, with Spawn Sire, it would be an amazing. The All Is Dust would be an amazing include in here. I don't know that I have ever owned a copy of All Is Dust. As a matter of fact, it's been printed a couple times. No, I have never owned a copy of All Is Dust. So this is pretty much the perfect deck for it. Artisan, the Twin. Now, Endbringer kind of does his own thing. I mean, he untaps. Here again, it scales well with the size of the game because you get to draw some cards. Yeah, that 1 damage is not going to do a lot, but that double diamond draw card is pretty good. Of course, the Hand of Emrakul, are Eldrazi's version of the Taunting Elf. It That Betrays. Here again, another card. I mean, everything just, this deck needs All Is Dust. The Pathfinder and a Kozilek to Great Distortion because that was what I had. Now, instant-wise, of course, we're colorless, so we have a whopping amount of instants. We have 2. A counterspell and a removal spell, which some would argue the counterspell is a removal spell, but yeah, it's more. I tend to use counters more as protect my stuff instead of a removal spell. So let's look at lands. Now there's a lot of functionality here. Of course, I already mentioned the Tron, the power plant, the tower, and the mine. And I don't know, just for flavor reasons, I put in the Urza's Factory. A lot of people didn't get the flavor there, but the other 3 tap for 7. And yeah, I know there's better things you could be doing with your 7 mana, but if you ain't got it, you ain't got it, and you can just pump out blockers. Now, Blasted Landscape is just in there as a cycle land. Let's see. Gargoyle Castle can give you an emergency flyer if you need it. The 2 mana lands, I don't have a whole lot of them because I mean there's no ancient tomb or anything in here, but I do have a Temple of the False God, an Eldrazi Temple, Shrine of the Forsaken. Now here's something. If everybody who plays EDH put a Cloud Post in their deck, Cloud Post would suddenly become the best card in everybody's deck. Because think about it. I mean, whoa. And even better if, put the Glimmer Post in there too. So, yeah, that's not going to happen. We all know it, but it's cool to think about. Crystal Vein is kind of a 2-mana land. It's 2 mana once. Seagate Wreckage is some quasi-card draw. The High Market. All right. Now, I'll be honest with you. High Market, the reason why I have this in here and why I run it in a ton of decks is because Capsize has to have a target. And when they pay their 6 mana, odds are some kind of discount when they got it, but when they pay their 6 mana and target your permanent to bounce, if you can sacrifice that permanent in response, the Capsize will fizzle. It will not go back to their hand. That's beyond that and countering it, there's just not a lot of ways to deal with the dang Capsize. Capsize is amazing. I love it. Every one that I own are indexed. Y'all have, as of this point, y'all have seen every Capsize I have. If you see any more, that means I've bought more, which is entirely possible. But it's getting kind of to be an expensive common now. But that's why I've got the High Market. Now, the Sanctum of Ugin, of course, naturally works well with the colorless. Mage Ring will hopefully let us store up some mana. The Phyrexian Core, we can sack an artifact. Encroaching Waste, pop a non-basic. Same with kind of the Tech Edge. Now, let's see. Radiant Fountains in there just because. I mean, it could very easily be a waste, and there's probably an argument for it that it probably should be a waste or, an ancient tomb or something. Buried Ruin's going to get the artifacts back. It's probably going to get Ugin's Nexus back after they shoot it. Pretty much the same way with Sequestered Stash. Mishra's Factory producing making the little blocker, and Arcane Lighthouse. Now, Hall the Bandit Lord, I feel like does not get enough respect. But in this particular deck, yeah, the first thing you're looking at is, man, it comes into play tapped, and I've got to pay 3 life to get 1 mana. But you're giving Emrakul haste. That is, I would pay more than 3 life for that to give Emrakul haste. Oh, man, that's sharp. So, and I got one last land that it is on the list, but you know what? It is a great land. And you can, I mean, the deck is not going to have a problem generating mana, obviously. So, spending 3 lands, 2 mana plus this, surprise Emrakul. What? Yeah. This is one of those decks that I think this is one of the, no, there's a couple. I think I got this one and another one that I built and thought I actually did, but I just played it and didn't. So yeah, there is a lot of room here. It does need like a Soul Ring, and I've never owned the coin flipping free Soul Ring. What is that? Yeah, can't think of it right now. Crypt, Mana Crypt. Yeah, Mana Vault, Mana Crypt, totally could straight up use those. But if I use those, I really would want to run the clock. And then I think it almost becomes a different deck. So this one is just all about abusing Emrakul as much as possible because let's face it, we can't abuse the other one. And I did actually get to see the play of like ever of that Emrakul. I loved it. Well, I didn't get to physically see it, but I did hear it. Anyway, I do appreciate y'all watching. Y'all let me know what you think. Don't I don't know if I'm actually gonna have time to build the Christmas deck because I really wanted to build like a, I love Christmas, love the holidays. I really want to build like a red, green, white, snow covered Christmas deck. We don't really have a Santa Claus figure, but we've got elves, and that's the only reason why I haven't done it is because, it's not a lot of reindeers, not a lot of elves. I mean, there's a whole lot of elves, but it'd be hard to keep it from just being an elf deck. But that is what I've got for right now. We're going to go back to Mercadian Mass for the next one. So I appreciate you watching. Y'all let me know what you think. Once again, I want to thank everybody. Thank all the patrons. Y'all can find me on Twitter, Tapped Out, right here on YouTube. There's a Facebook group. I'll admit I need to be a little more active on the Facebook group. But thank y'all so much, and head on over to EDH Rec, and because that's where a lot of, I mean, I don't per se, how I normally build is I get something crazy in my mind with the commander, and I'll get all the pieces I can think of from there, and then I'll go to EDH Rec and essentially fill the holes because, you know, there's what, 19, 20,000 cards. I can't remember them all. But it is kind of scary what I do have committed to memory. It is really scary. But as I said, that's what I've got for Emrakul. Probably, I'm recording this on a Thursday night, so the night before that y'all will see it. So I might. No, I don't think I can take this one back because I think this is one of those decks that the play group put a 6-month ban on, and I don't think it's been 6 months since I played it. But anyway, I appreciate you watching. But right now, I think we're going to shuffle and cut.